I don't know if you recall, because it didn't get all that much attention in this space, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did appear on the Jimmy Dore show last week, where they talked about a variety of issues, including, of course, the Israel-Palestine issue. And during that back and forth, Jimmy felt like he should defer to Max Blumenthal to debate the finer points of this, since Jimmy felt like he was not equipped to counter a lot of what RFK was saying. So before we get into this, I will just give my overall take on that Dore RFK exchange. And I gave this on RBN earlier this week. Jimmy could have been stronger. There's no doubt about that. He knows that. That's why he apologized for not being prepped better during the actual interview and after the interview. However, I maintain that you cannot adequately prep for a debate with a liar, because there's an infinite number of lies that a liar can tell. You can only study what's true. You can't study what's not true. You can't study every lie that's about to come out of a maniac's mouth. And so Patrick Donahue just super chatted us a moment ago talking about how Palestinians will pay people to kill Jews anywhere in the world. That is a complete and utter distortion. Palestinian authorities will pay families of imprisoned Palestinians. So if you are imprisoned by the Israeli state, your family will get money. And what they have said is that they are not going to differentiate payments or non-payments based on what you are in jail for. Because if a kid throws a rock at an Israeli tank, they'll throw that kid in jail, and they want to give that family money. And so there have been cases where murderers have gotten money sent to their families while they are in prison. That's true. But that is completely different, completely and utterly different from what RFK implied. Or, I'm sorry, he didn't not imply it. He said it outright. They'll pay you to kill Jews, implying that there are these for-hire hitmen around the world getting rich off of murdering Jews that the Palestinians are paying. This is what I mean. The guy just is not truthful. He's not truthful. He makes lawyerly arguments. He traffics in obfuscations, half-truths. He takes little things. One of the other lies he told was that they'll name a street after you in Gaza if you kill a Jewish person. I scoured the internet looking for examples to corroborate that claim. I couldn't find anything until hours later I found one article in the Times of Israel, which is not exactly the most unbiased source. One instance of that happening 8 years ago. 8 years ago. Where a kid, I think he was 19 years old, he killed two people and was shot by the cops, and they named the street after him. So but if you listen to RFK, he would have you believe that it's a point of policy, right? That you are honored publicly for doing all this every time. And this is what I mean. If you're Jimmy, I'm sorry, Russell, I'll cut you off. But if you're Jimmy, when you hear a thing like that that's so crazy, it's hard to counter in real time, because you're hearing this crazy thing for the first time. It sounds like it's completely batshit crazy and untrue. But if you say that's untrue and RFK points to, well, in 2015 they did this, then you look like a bit of an idiot, even though you're not, even though you are correct in that what he's saying is a gross overstatement. It's extremely dishonest framing. Lawyer that he is, though, he might have a factoid in his back pocket that he can use to embarrass you, and so you don't say anything, right? That's why it's very difficult to debate liars. And so that's how that debate unfolded. So that's my overall take on that. Russell, I don't know if you want to add something before we go to the Blumenthal thing.
This is the problem with RFK overall, and this is what we both came out the other side saying when we read his book. It's a mix of truth and lies. It's a mix of factoids and exaggerations. And he does a lot of lying by omission. That Larry Kramer thing is a perfect example, where he tells you that AIDS activist Larry Kramer called Fauci a murderer. What he doesn't tell you is that he later reconciled with Fauci and credited him with fast-tracking new AIDS treatments. Now, however you feel about Fauci, I'm not defending Fauci by bringing that up, but I'm pointing out he didn't tell you that part of the story. He didn't tell you that. If you read his book, you would come away from it thinking, oh, wow, this very credible AIDS activist called Fauci a murderer, so he must be a murderer, right? He doesn't tell. He constantly does that throughout his book. He has, I brought this up a lot. Because this is when I realized who we're dealing with there. he talks a lot about theories about HIV and AIDS that were kind of fringe theories floating around in the late 80s into about the mid 90s that have been completely disproven. He makes it sound like this is currently debated, right? Like this is a point of debate now. And he does not tell you this is from 20, 30 years ago. I mean, sure, there are notes. You have to go into the back. How many people do that? I did. And that's how I started taking it apart. I started going into the note. This guy's talking about articles in the Village Voice from freaking 1991. This is what this is based on. And he's not telling you the other side. He's not telling you the contrary evidence. You know, it amazes me when you get people who say, you've got 100 doctors who believe this. Well, what about the 25,000 who don't? Like if you're relying on a lot of doctors believe it basis for your argument, well, then, okay. So what about they're all bought. It's not that, hey, you know, anybody who watches this show on the regular knows how much I talk about the, medicalization of children regarding the trans issue. It's not that I don't think the medical industry is corrupt, but that doesn't mean that everything they say is evidence of corruption. You know, when you take that posture, it makes you susceptible to con artists who are going to exploit your justified skepticism by feeding you things that sound somewhat plausible so you believe them. But, you know, once you see what this guy is about, all the more so in a world where it's very difficult to figure out what the truth is, that's the last person you want to listen to, right? There are credible skeptics. He's not one of them.
So, about partway through the debate, I would say about halfway through the Israel section, Jimmy realized that, he wasn't equipped to counter a lot of what RFK was saying. And so he tried to, pass the ball to Max Blumenthal by asking Robert F. Kennedy Jr. if he would be open to debating Max on the issue or talking to Max on the issue. So here's how that went down.
Oh, but I do not think I love Max Blumenthal, but I do not think he's objective on Israel. I think his reporting on Israel is not it needs to be questioned.
Okay, well, here's what I would
that's
ask.
Like saying, first of all, that's bullshit. I love Max Blumenthal, but I don't like him on Israel. That's like saying I love the Beatles, but I hated the White Album. Like, what are you talking about? This is one of the things that Max Blumenthal has written most about. So how can you be a huge fan of Max Blumenthal but not think he's credible on Israel?
I mean, personally, I do like Max's cover of Love Me Do a lot more than his cover of I Am the Walrus.
Right, exactly. All right, here we go.
It needs to be questioned.
Okay, well, here's what I would ask. Just like, Peter Hotez ducked you and Joe Rogan, I would love, because Max is the guy to talk to about this, not me. So would you do an interview with Max, because he would be able to talk to you about this way better than I can. I'm really not good at this.
Yeah, I would love to talk to Max.
I would love to talk to Max. Little tell there. This guy's not the best poker player. All right. Yeah, I'd love to talk to Max. Hey, Russell, ask me if I paid out your rightful balance of the podcast money last month.
Hey, Keaton, did you mess up the math last month on my payout?
Oh, no. It's all there.
Yeah. Why did I only get 75 cents and a handshake?
That's what it worked out to be.
Oh, all right. I don't usually work for handshakes, but okay.
Right, exactly. So, I'll tell you, I could have told you a mile away. In fact, I said it when we were on the Post-Duopoly show on Tuesday, that there's no way he's going to sit down for a debate with Max Blumenthal on this topic. There's just, I thought there's absolutely zero chance of that happening. And lo and behold, let's do a little screen share for you folks here. Max Blumenthal tweets out yesterday afternoon, a day after RFK agreed to Jimmy Dore's proposal to publicly discuss his pledge of unconditional support of Israel with me, his comms director was dialing me up to offer a series of unbelievable excuses for why this could not happen in the foreseeable future. The gray zone reports RFK Jr. staff block Israel-Palestine dialogue with the Gray Zone editor-in-chief after the candidate agreed. Kennedy's not debating Max Blumenthal, said RFK 2024 comms director Stephanie Spear. He's not going to debate anyone. He's running for president.
What? You don't fight in here, man. This is the war room.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy mentioned the whole Peter Hotez thing on the show where RFK challenged Peter Hotez to a debate and Peter Hotez said he didn't want to do it. And so now RFK, who challenged Peter Hotez to a debate, is now saying, as a point of policy, he's not willing to debate anyone. He's running for president. And I got to tell you, whether it's Jimmy Dore or Peter Hotez or Max Blumenthal, right? I'm not saying I have equal respect for all three of those people, but when you handle a discussion the way RFK handled that discussion with Jimmy Dore about Israel-Palestine and about the southern border for that matter, you give credibility to people like Hotez for saying, no, you're not worth debating for the same exact reason. Because how does Hotez know he's not going to bring some study that he pulls out of his ass or some weird sort of distortion of the truth that he's never heard before? And if you've never heard of something before, it's very, very difficult to counter that point. And so how do you know you're not going to look like you have egg on your face when you don't deserve to have egg on your face? I'm not saying that's how it would have went down, but when you see how he handles debates, when you see how he handles confrontations, where you see how quickly and with such charisma he can spew lies and half-truths, and that gives credibility to people who are saying, no, I'm not going to debate you because you're not an honest actor, and you're going to present a case in a way that makes it look like you're credible when you're not, and because you're so uncredible, it's going to make me look like an idiot because I'm just going to be sitting there flabbergasted at all this bullshit that you're throwing at me faster than I can process and spit back in your face.
And that is exactly what I've been saying. That is exactly why I've been telling people who rightly are very concerned about issues surrounding the virus of unknown origins. This is the last person you want on your team because he undermines the credibility of your cause. This is why I don't want this fucking maniac anywhere near what I consider the existential cause of free speech and open media. I don't want that connected to this fucking screwball. Because you're right. Look at what we were just saying about his book. If he had debated Hotez, he's going to be pulling out studies that Hotez is not aware of. Because they're studies from 1987. But he's not going to tell you that part. And then he's going to say later on, I can refer you right to the study that I was talking about. Yeah, the study exists, but there are 10 caveats about that study that he's not telling you, including that it's been thoroughly debunked. He's just going to tell you there is a study. It's a real study. Look, I referred you to the study. Now, with Israel, he can't pull that shit on Max because Max is the one who's encyclopedic about the history of this in a way that he is not. That's why he won't debate Max, but he would debate Hotez because he knows he can bullshit his way through a debate with Hotez. He can't with Max on this subject.
Please clap.